Hello gamers and welcome back. I'm Rob, of course, or Warshak if you want to call me by my in-game name. And in this deck guide, we're going to be covering some of that sweet Dragon Priest. It's a deck that you guys have asked me to cover quite a few times over the past month. So I figured, why not? We'll cover some Dragon Priest. So for those of you unfamiliar with our deck guides and kind of how they roll along, we bring up the deck here. I talk about the deck, why I have what I have in it. We talk about each individual card and then some synergies, that we can see clearly from the deck list. From there, we'll head into some ranked games. We'll play the deck. We'll talk about the mulligans, the matchups, what we're aiming to do, and just overall my thought process behind each and every turn, and kind of what the cards in our hand, the synergies on the actual field once we get the ball rolling. As we could see, the Dragonoid Operative doesn't show us everything it could discover, and then the synergies with those Discoverer cards inside of the Priest cards that we have in the deck. So there's a lot of sort of cards that we're going to be using outside of our deck to synergize with inside of our deck, and it's impossible to see those cards through just the deck list. We actually have to get into some games and talk about those on the side. So without further ado, taking a look at the deck list, we have the Northshire Cleric. This is kind of a staple in most Priest decks, to be honest. The ability to have a 1-mana 1/3 is just huge, and on top of that, whenever a minion is healed, you draw a card. As we know, our hero power is being able to heal minions, so drawing a card with this isn't really that hard. Whether or not we play this on turn 1 is dependent on the class we're going against. We go against a warrior, they can fire a war axe. It probably not the best. We normally want to save this card when we can make sure we get some value out of her, at least one card draw. But sometimes we set her down there just to kind of take the 3 damage, and what if they don't have the war axe or the frostbolt or whatever the case may be. So it's situation dependent. Plus, if we can follow her up with like a Northshire Cleric, coin, power ward, shield, that's always great. Potion of Madness is a card that actually didn't really see play until this recent expansion, due to the fact that Pirates is very popular, Token is very popular. A lot of good two attack creatures or less are very prominent in the early game. Fireflies, Patches, of course, like I mentioned, Swashbuckler. A lot of the totems that Shaman runs have Shamans run, like the Primal Fin totem. It's just things like that you can just steal and grab. Stonehill Defender, there's just tons. The list goes on. Ally Armorsmith. So Potion of Madness has seen a ton of play, but I think even on top of it being really good by itself, Lyra being in the deck, the more cheap spells you have, the better Lyra you're going to get whenever you decide to play her or whenever you can play her. So on top of it just being a good card as is, keep in mind that all cheap spells in the deck have synergy with Lyra, which we'll get to in a little bit. So double Potion of Madness, great card right now, and has a lot more uses than what you think, and it will allow you to make plays that you didn't think were possible. Power Word Shield, this is definitely a staple for 2 of. It's a 1-mana, give a minion +2 health, and you draw a card. So giving minions health isn't as, I don't want to say it's not as good as giving them attack, but this deck you'll find that beefing up a minion's HP to be able to attack with it multiple times through a different array of creatures and then healing it back up, drawing cards. It's just that you'll find that in this particular deck, HP is better than if you were to put like HP on a creature in a Pirate Warrior deck. Obviously, attacking a Pirate Warrior is crazy, but HP in a Pirate Warrior is not very good, but HP in a Priest works so very well with just the cards in the deck and the fact that it can heal. So you can, you look at HP and you're just like, it doesn't really do anything right away, but it's the long, how do I say this? It allows the creatures to live longer, kill more stuff, get more value, kind of the deal. Another Spite Historian, since this is a dragon deck, being able to discover a dragon is very important, especially being a 2-drop 1/3. The stats aren't why you run this, but the stats still aren't bad. But the fact that you can discover Dragonoid Operative, which kind of, I don't want to say it's the MVP of this deck, because every card in this deck is really good for the most part, but being able to discover Dragonoid Operative discovers a card in your opponent's deck, and that card can give you additional value, plus the Dragonoid Operative is a 5-mana 5/6, plus it's a dragon. I mean, this card is like this card is just so good, and the fact that that this deck is still powerful because of this card just shows how good this card is. Like, I don't think without this card, Dragon Priest would still be around. But because this card is here, Dragon Priest, playing 4 Dragonoid Operatives in a game, or even just 2 sometimes if you get really unlucky with your Nether Spite Historian, is still just enough. The card is just insane. So Nether Spite Historians, almost every time you're going to get the Operative. Unless sometimes you're looking for, you know, Deathwing, Ysera, stuff like that. But for the most part, always looking for those operatives. Shadow Visions, this is a fantastic card in this particular deck. It allows you to discover a spell in your deck. So whether you're looking for a Shadow Word Pain, a Shadow Word Death, another Dragonfire potion, a Potion of Madness, your Power Word Shield, most of the time you can almost guarantee you're going to be able to hit something that you need in the situation that you're given, or the situation that you're currently in. So fantastic card. Again, Shadow Word Visions, Power Word Shield, Potion of Madness, Shadow Word Pain, all synergize really well with Lyra. Moving to the Shadow Word Pain, this is definitely a 2 of. Again, the early game in this deck is where it's going to struggle. When we play this deck is going to perform very well against mid-range, going to perform very, very well against control. It's going to struggle against aggro. You know, if we run into Pirate Warriors, Token Druids, Token Shaman sometimes, and of course the Quest Rogue, if we don't get a decent early game and get the ball rolling, it really hurts this deck a lot. So being able to, you know, have the early game Netherspite Historian, Cleric, Power Word Shield, Shadow Word Pain is really important to the early game. Curious Glimmer Root. It's a 3-mana 3/3, so the stats are pretty good, not the best, but good. And it says look at 3 cards, guess which one started in your opponent's deck, and you get a copy of it. So basically, I'll explain this further once we play this card in the games that we play later. But it's just a really good card. It doesn't look that great, but the card that's going to give you started in your opponent's deck, so obviously the card is of somewhat significance, right? If you're stealing a card from your opponent's class, it could be anything, so it's not as powerful because it could be, you know, it could be something good. It's most of the time not exactly what you're looking for. But stealing a card from your opponent's deck, obviously it's good enough to be in their deck. It's good enough to be in your hand. The only hard part is choosing which one it is. And with this guy, which we'll notice when we play in the game, it'll give you one option that's never going to be it, one option that's close, and then one option that's normally on the point, right? It's the card. So you just got to make sure you don't pick the wrong one, because there's one that's always going to look like, well, it could be, but there's always one that'll be, you know, that's always the correct answer. Cabal Talon Priest, this is a fantastic statted minion and a fantastic ability as well. The 3-mana 3/4 battle cry, give a friendly minion +3 health is huge. You know, you go Northshire Cleric, coin Cabal Talon Priest. That is one mean early game opener right there. So this card carries on its own, plus the stats of the minion are huge. You know, you can't, let's say you don't have the early game and you kind of have to tempo this guy out. He's still a 3-mana 3/4. He's still good just to play on his own. So don't think you always have to get the battle cry with this guy, but when you do, it's still really nice. Shadow Word Death is your big minion removal. Shadow Word Pain, your small minion early game removal. Shadow Word Death, your big minion late game removal. You know, destroy a minion with 5 or more attack. Definitely run 2 of these. The thing is, guys, that I know I've mentioned this a million times in our video, but there's going to be someone who doesn't know, and it's always important to recognize this. When going against Priest, when playing Priest or playing against Priest, 4 attack minions are your worst nightmare, because you can't Shadow Word Pain it, and you can't Shadow Word Death it. It's like the niche, it's like the Achilles heel of the Priest class is a 4 attack minion, and definitely keep that in mind when not only piloting the deck, but piloting against another Dragon Priest. So the Twilight Drake is an interesting pick. This used to be the Twilight Guardian spot, and the Guardian, in my opinion, is better than the Drake, but the Drake is still good. You know, you need to put some dragons in the deck to get the Netherspite Historian value and the Operative value and the Bookworm value, because you need a dragon in your hand to get actually the effect from it. So having this on 4 or saving it for your operative, plus by the time your early game, you're either drawing cards with Northshire Cleric, drawing cards with Power Word Shield, or discovering cards with the Historian. So by turn 4, some decks, you know, have only 3 or 4 cards in their hand, maybe even less. Normally with Priest, you have 5 or 6. So even if you play this on 4 and have played minions, you know, in the prior turns, it's normally always going to be a 4/5, a 4/6, somewhere in there. And it counts as a dragon. It's just a good card in general. Dragonoid Operative, again, the MVP of the deck. We kind of covered him earlier when we talked about the Netherspite Historian, but this guy's just simply fucking insane. When we play with him, you guys will see this guy is like the be-all, end-all, the bee's knees of the dragons. Even though he's not the biggest dragon, his ability is by far one of the best abilities in the game, without a doubt. Elise, this card is fantastic with the Shadow Visions. I didn't really cover this when we covered Shadow Vision because I wanted to wait it to Elise for when we cover it, but we play a 5-mana 5/5 Elise. She shuffles a pack in our deck. Let's say we're playing against a Taunt Warrior. We're looking for value. We don't need a Potion of Madness. We don't need draw. We don't need, you know, a Dragonfire Potion. We want 5 more cards. We Shadow Visions. We hopefully pick up the Elise pack. You know, we get the pack for 2 mana. We spend the 2 mana. We get 5 cards, and we didn't even actually open the pack in our deck yet. So that's a really good value-oriented synergy. The problem is that combination will never happen if you play against aggressive-based decks, guys. So if you're finding yourself playing a lot of Quest Rogue, a lot of Token Druid, a lot of Token Shaman, a lot of... I mentioned Quest Rogue, Pirate Warrior. Playing Elise really doesn't help you at all, so cutting her for maybe a Weapon Destruction card or like Tar Creepers aren't the worst thing in the world. So just keep in mind, she's good, and she generates a ton of value, but the problem is you'll never get to it if you play against a meta filled with aggro. So the meta has to be mid-rangey to control when you play this particular deck, or you'll just keep getting creamed by aggressive-based decks. Again, Lyra, on the value-oriented scope of cards, I built this deck, again, to do well against mid-range, do well against control. This deck does not do well against aggro. It does okay. Potion of Madnesses and things like that help, but they're not going to they don't give this deck like an 80% win rate against them by any means. So Lyra, again, generating value with all of your cheap spells. Even if you Lyra for 1 or 2 spells, that's plenty. If they don't kill her, it's going to be even worse for them. But in this deck, she's not as powerful as she's in the Silence Priest deck, but I figure it's one of those cards that's just really annoying. If it sits on the board, normally you just outvalue your opponent, and if they used multiple resources to kill her, that's fine, because they've extended too much because they think you're going to do something crazy. Even though this deck doesn't really rely on Lyra, it's just a nice card to have in the deck. When we hit the 6 mana slot, I was negotiating whether or not we should play 2 Bookworms or 2 Cabal Shadow Priests. I've decided 1 and 1 is pretty nice. Due to the fact that Bookworm is a dragon, you definitely need dragons in the deck with your dragon synergy. So you find yourself getting dragon locked too often. 2 Bookworms is fine, but the Cabal Shadow Priest is really nice. There's a lot of shaman, like I said, a lot of druid running around, a lot of warrior. So taking an ally armor smith, taking a mana tide totem, taking a 2/3 token, or whatever the case may be. Really good stuff with Cabal Shadow Priest. Plus, she's a 4/5. You can play against another priest. You can get some big stuff done with her. And the Bookworm, of course, is a 6 mana 3/6, and you can destroy. It basically has a Shadow Word Pain built into him. Plus, he's a dragon and a 3/6. Not bad at all. Double Dragon Fire Potion is almost always a staple in this particular deck. And if you need more AOE, you always can Shadow Visions into another Dragon Fire Potion. Some people say, you know what, Rob, you only really need 1. Go ahead, you can run 1 and have fun with that. I chose to run 2. Again, if you don't like this particular build of the deck, or you just don't like the deck in general, you don't have to play it. But this is what I'm running. Double Primordial Drake. This guy is just too good kind of not to put in the deck. The 4 attack, you're great against other priests. Taunt, fantastic against any aggro class. Deal 2 damage to all other minions. AoE is sick. Always nice, and 8 HP is just really annoying to get through. Solid card, and it's a dragon. You can't go wrong with it. So that's going to wrap up the deck there. We'll head into some of these ranked games, and I'll explain it further, and hopefully we can talk about some of the synergies that we may not have covered when talking about the individual cards. So with that, let's get right into it. Alrighty, so heading into our first game here, we're going to be playing against a rogue RNG. Oh, Jesus. We have no RNG, so this could be a potential issue. But we're looking for him to be playing Miracle, if anything. Quest Rogue is really bad for us, but not the end of the world. So this is hard, because we always look for a dragon with Historian. She's never really bad to keep. The Talon Priest is always nice in the early game, and so is the Glimmer Root. So in this situation, I think I'm going to put back the Talon Priest, and I'm going to keep the Historian and Glimmer Root, and we're going to look for a dragon. I think that's the key here. Alright, so we got 2 dragons, actually. Okay. So our early game is going to be Historian, Glimmer Root, into probably Coin the Operative. That looks pretty nice. So if he's playing Miracle, the best way to go about winning is to kind of fill the board up with decent-sized dragons that are pretty resilient to his early game. And it looks like, because he's starting with Swash and the patches coming out, this really does look like a Miracle Rogue. Normally by now they've played the quest. So we always start with the Historian. Let's see what we get. In this situation, between Deathwing, Malagos, and Scaled Nightmare, I think Deathwing is actually a decent pick. The follow-up would be the Scaled Nightmare, due to the fact that it fits to our curve, right? We go 3 into Coin 5, and then we play 4, or we actually just play 4, 5, and then Coin. But Deathwing is kind of like an oh shit button. Like, let's say he makes a huge questing and we can't Shadow Word Death it. It's an option. But I think the Scaled Nightmare out of anything is the most annoying. Plus, it has the highest health pool. So I think we're going to go with the Scaled Nightmare. Like, let's say we were playing against a Quest Rogue. Maybe the Deathwing makes sense because we can clear board. But I think out of respect for curve, the Scaled Nightmare does an okay job. Okay, a 4/4 Van Cleef is perfect against Rogue because we have a really tough time killing it. So this is where we actually can go coin Drake to contest this, because if we play Glimmerroot, it just gets traded into. So I think this is it. He ruined our plan a little bit, but it's kind of the only plan we have, because we need to not take like huge amounts of chip damage in the early game due to a Van Cleef and then get bursted out. Sap would hurt us pretty bad. So he's going for the backstab of this, trade 1/1 in. He could actually hero power and take 4, but I don't think you will. Right now he's deciding, does he hero power and take the 4, or does he trade his 1/1 in hero power and just keep it there? But we got a backstab out of him, we got an abyss out of him, which makes his auctioneer a lot less potent. Being able to play auctioneer and then a bunch of spells for a miracle rogue is very important. Also, it buffs the questing if you were to ever have it. So getting these spells out early is fantastic. Okay, using the play Lasher for field control, gonna trade the 1/1 in, go face for 4, makes perfect sense. So we could go Cleric, Talon Priest, it goes to 6, this goes to 3/4, he can trade in there, Northshire trades there, or we go with the Glimmerroot, let's say he trades there, this is at 1, this is at 2, we follow up with the Operative, then he can trade in again. So I think the most resilient board that we can make is this and this. We could have Glimmerrooted and looked for like a backstab or an Abyss, but it actually gives the card to us instead of us picking it, which is not that great. So this is just more creatures on board, really annoying for him. Meanwhile, if we go with the card like Glimmerroot, it's just not as powerful. So he's going to go out of his way to kill this Northshire Cleric, which really doesn't mean a whole lot to us, to be honest. So now we can easily make a trade there, play the Draconoid Operative, and it's good to go. We also could go with the Glimmerroot and go with the Dragonfire next turn, but I kind of want to go for the field control. So let's Operative, let's see what we get. Prep, does it help us? No. Does SI help us? Kind of. And does the Abyss help us? A little bit as well. So it's between SI and Abyss. Our turn 6 is probably this. But we also could go Glimmerroot SI or Glimmerroot Abyss. I kind of like the Abyss because it's a little bit more damage. SI is a creature, but Abyss is kind of reach that we don't have. Okay. I'm glad that we took the Abyss, because now we can actually Abyss down this 5/3, and we can trade this 5/6 into his 2/3. Or we could actually Dragonfire Potion if he decides to go face. And it actually kills all of these minions, and this takes nothing. So this is actually a really good Dragonfire Potion turn. Doesn't look that great, but we're killing 3 minions. Instead of using Glimmerroot, Abyss this, trading there. Like, we just get to Dragonfire, go face for 5. That just feels nice. And normally we have 2 Shadow Visions in the deck, so if we need more Dragonfire Potions, they're always available to us. I will remember you. Okay, that's fine. That can be easily Shadow Ward Death. So what do we play alongside Shadow Ward Death, because it costs 3? We're going to go down to 4. Can't play the Lyra this turn, but we can Glimmerroot. Okay, what do we think is in his deck? Definitely Prep. So we actually can play another Glimmerroot and then prep the Shadow. Or we could save Prep for the Sun Shard, but I don't think that's worth it. So we're going to go with this, and we're going to be prepping the Shadow Ward Pain. Or Death, I'm sorry. Definitely think the Slayer's in his deck. So we go Prep. Get rid of this guy, go face for 5. And keep in mind with the Glimmerroot cards, being able to, like, there's always going to be one card that never fits, one card that kind of fits, and then one card that it is. So just never be confused between the card that is a guarantee in his deck versus the card that, you know, he could have teched it in there, but it may not be. You know what I mean? So just try to think about, like, what's always going to be in our opponent's deck 100% of the time. And that just comes with playing, you know, the game and realizing what's in the meta, what are people playing, what's normally what someone would see. So don't feel bad if you pick the wrong pick from Glimmerroot. A lot of the times it could be pretty difficult. I know I got some people yelling at me, Rob, if they miss the Glimmerroot, they miss out on the entirety of the card. I know, but you know, you shouldn't feel bad because you make a mistake because you don't play the game all the time and realize everything that everybody's playing in every deck. I mean, that's just, you know, you can't expect that from everybody. Alright, so we've seen a lot of evolved shaman on ladder lately. So I've got the feeling this could in fact be an evolved shaman. Nothing on turn 1, very interesting. Most of the time they have something to do. I should have healed him face just to show him we care about him. That's normally a thing if our opponent's at 30. Give him a good heal. So coin into 3 mana, could be Mana Tide. Stonehill Defender, okay. Not a bad 3-drop at all. He coins into 3, which tells me he has another 3 in his hand. Or he just really wants to get the board early on. Another 3 mana he could in fact have is going to be the a Mana Tide, and he just wanted to put a taunt in front of it to protect it. So again, this is a hard one, right? Because he could in fact have Water Speaker, right? He could in fact have Lava Burst. That's not as likely, but could. And Hex. As we know, Hex is most likely always going to be in a Shaman deck. Water Speaker, also most likely always in a Shaman deck, but I think we're going to see Hex more often than we would see a Water Speaker. You know what I mean? Water Speaker and Hex, very close call there. Very close. But I think Hex is one of those cards that we see in almost every Shaman list, especially if they're running Stonehill. We know they're playing a more, maybe, slower Shaman. So it's a little bit better there. So I think we're going to Talon Priest. If we Talon Priest him, we could swing into this. Now the question is, do we ever shield one of these dudes? We know this is basically 2 damage he has, and I really don't mind shielding this guy. Because we buffed him, and now we should buff him. You gotta share the buffs. If you put too much into one creature, it's bad because of Hex. Alright, so it looks like he's running more of a controlled Jade Shaman. Very interesting. Very interesting. So we always start with the... It's a hard one. I think we're gonna, well, we're gonna pain this, which tells me I should probably Glimmer Root instead of Nether Spite. But the problem with this problem with the Glimmer Root is it doesn't actually give us a turn 5 or turn 6 or 7 play, while the Historian is gonna help us find Curve. There we go. So we found the operative, so we can actually play that next turn. So this always gets dealt with. Now this gets traded into there. This gets traded into there. Because the Glimmer Root's good, but it's not giving us, it's not a guarantee that's giving us a good on-curve card. And not that Dragonoid Operatives, if it is an on-curve card, but it's pretty fucking close. It's close enough, right? It's generating a card, it's a 5-mana minion, it's a 5/6, needs to be dealt with. Very nice. Very nice, very nice. Oh. Oh, baby. Get him good. We just so happen to draw into the perfect on-curve card, but most of the time that doesn't happen. Oh, this has to be annoying for this Shaman, because this Cabal Shadow Priest really isn't found a whole lot right now. It's found in maybe some forms of Control Priest, but I would have to say Dragon and Silence Priest are much more popular than that. So I always run one of these and normally one Bookworm, just to kind of add a little spice into everyday life. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to go with the Operative. Let's get some shit on the board. Definitely Wide Eyes 100%. Are we going to overdraw? We are not. So we're going to heal this guy up. Going to trade there. Going to go face. We're going to have 10 cards next turn. We going to have to go win. So we're going to have to play at least 2 cards. So I'm thinking we go with like Wide Eyes and maybe we Hex something. It's hard to say. It really is hard to say. I don't want to play Cleric because if we heal something, we're going to draw. We're going to end up overdrawing. Like this card is like, it's so powerful. All right, good. We get to Hex something. Fantastic. I was really hoping we could get some Hex value in here. So Hex is going to hit the floor. Wide Eyes is going to hit the floor. Let's hit the trade there. Let's hit the trade there. Let's hit for 5. Fantastic. Oh, my Lanta. What is going on? So a Volcano is probably going to be in our future. No Volcano. Oh, shit. So this is where we go Bookworm. The problem is we're going to overdraw because we're at 9 cards. We need to play something that doesn't guarantee that we're going to draw. So I think we're going to go ahead and heal our dude and play the Northshire Cleric. I know this looks really wrong, but it's really right. Do we just ignore everything and go face? We know this goes face, this goes face. I think we just go face with everything. I mean, even a Volcano. At this point, he needs Lightning Storm and Volcano. Could be double Lightning Storm. Oh, and he even rolled Spell Power. That's so bad. There's the Maelstrom into a Lightning Storm. I mean, if he wouldn't have hit that Spell Power totem, it was over right there. High rolled on everything it needed to. Rip in the chat. Alright, that's unfortunate. So, is this the big Lyra turn, or we just play the... I think we play the Primordial Drake. We can even go as far as dropping the Historian. We have another dragon in our hand. Ysera or Operative? These are the choices, right? Because we know he has 2 hexes still in the deck, and the Operative's always going to give value, while the Ysera gives value, but she costs a lot. So in this situation, I like the Operative. I know it seems really silly, but, you know, Operative is just so good. Like, we can steal big cards from him if he has any. So he's going to heal face for 3, give himself a taunt. We've already used our Bookworm and our Shadow Priest, so we can't steal either one of these minions. We actually have to go through them, but at the same time, we have Dragonfire Potion. Both those are going to die. He's currently at 5. This card's going to die. We need 1 damage. We don't have 1 damage, so we currently don't have lethal. Currently, we have 4 damage if we, Can we Shadow Visions for anything? We can Shadow Vision for a Potion of Madness. Potion of Madness trade that still doesn't do it. I think this is where we can Lyra and Power Ward Shield and start going off with her, to be honest. How many cards do we have? We have 12. We're fine. Mind Games. Ooh. Is there ever a time that we take this 2-4? I don't think now is the time. We could play Mind Games, put a minion from your opponent's deck onto the battlefield. We could get a Wide Eyes maybe, or we just go with some more spells. I mean, Potion of Madness is okay. I'm gonna go with the Mind Games. We got another Mind Games. Okay. We're actually going to overdraw now. This is actually pretty bad. We could overdraw the Storm Guardian. We could overdraw Elise. We still have 2 Operatives in our deck that we can overdraw. Every card in our deck is very good. So we might have made a mistake here. So he's going to Hex the Lyra. That's 1 Hex down. Whew. Okay. Yeah, that's a really good Spirit Echo. Shadow Vision's down. Gonna clear the board. Take him down to 4 again. I guess we Mind Games. That's actually in his deck, which tells me he runs into Zoth. Volcano. Okay. Potion of Madness this, and we can win, but he still has that Tar Creeper. And because Tar Creeper's at 3, we have 1 Shadow Word Pain, so we actually can Shadow Visions into an answer. Oh, we can't Tar Creeper. Alright, so we just win here. Oh, we don't. The Stone Claw Totem. Okay, so this is where we Shadow Visions into another Potion of Madness. We potion. We potion. We trade. We go face. It doesn't matter if we would have got a Shadow Word Pain there or another Potion of Madness. It was still lethal. That's one of the problems with Priest, is the fact that we have no burst. There is 0 burst in this deck. Our burst comes from just having creatures on the board. Or maybe Lyra gives us some burst. But there was definitely a misplay there with that overdraw. I don't play with Lyra often. So whenever I get to feel the power of Lyra, it's not normally too much power. And we get punished by it. We get punished. Too much power. Another rogue. Again, we're going to hope for some miracle. We're going to hope for some of that miracle rogue for sure. I think we keep this opening hand. We're just going to hope to draw into a dragon. We actually could have put away the Power Word Shield and looked for a dragon. But, I mean, we have a decent amount of dragons in the deck, to be honest. We got Bookworm, Primordial Drakes, Twilight Drakes, Operatives. We got some good stuff. Okay, no turn 1 play. That's not on average for a priest. The problem comes if we just don't draw a dragon this game. Alright, so it is Quest Rogue. This is a very big weakness to this deck. We don't get on the board early. It doesn't look like we are, which means the fact that we're just going to get steamrolled. So this will be our 1 loss in the deck guide. No big deal there. So let's say we start off with the Historian there. We can pick up a Twilight Drake. We drop the Twilight Drake. The Twilight Drake makes trades. But this is just really bad, is when we're stuck with two Historians, no dragons. But it happens sometimes, guys. Like, so this is where, like, mulliganing back the Talon Priest and the Shield is really nice. And just solely look for dragons, which is always a play as well. I just figured that we would draw one. So he's going to go with the value of the Engineer back, which makes sense. But we're going to probably draw a dragon, because we have basically 3 draws between having 2 Shadow Word Pains, or Shields.
I hope you like my invention.
He's looking for a Shadow Step. Doesn't have one, which means he probably drew into another one. Do we go? Nah, we definitely go with the Historians first. Go with the Operative. This always trades there. Now the question is, I think we can buff him. Potion of Madness doesn't change anything. Do we buff her now? More creatures on board, more trades we make. Might have been better to buff the 3/5. But I think we're buffing the 1/5 is fine. Again, spreading the resources out. Oh man, he had the other novice. That's really bad. That he drew both novices and then Shadow Step. Now he plays novice. If he has prep, he actually can complete the quest this turn. At that point, it's just game over unless we like top deck Shadow Visions, pick up a Dragonfire, draw Dragonfire, Dragonfire again. Now he's prepping the quest. Now he can attack with this 5/5. Feels bad, man. Turn 4 completion. Cleric doesn't really help us. This is why I was thinking about giving him more HP, because then the 3-drop would have lived. If we Shadow Word Death this, we actually can't play anything else besides, I guess, the Historian, and we get too far behind. If we play the Operative, it gets traded into any hero powers, but at least we developed something. But stealing cards from his deck aren't even going to be that great. We could go with the Drake, which will actually live. And then we play the Cleric, and we just go face. Oh man, this hurts me bad. It hurts me bad. This game is over, but I'm just playing it out for you guys so you can kind of see how it runs down. It's either the rogue draws what they need with the return abilities and they get it by turn 4 or 5, which is insane, or they don't get exactly what they need. They get it by like turn 6 or 7, and normally by then we have at least 2 or 3 decent minions on the board, and we can kind of sustain for a little bit, and the game can go either way, right? But when they get it on turn 4, we had an exceedingly slow start. It's all downhill from there. So we could, in fact, top deck the Dragonfire Potion, and that would help us a little bit.
Drink with me, friend.
Okay. The Tempest doesn't really help us at all. If we kill one of these, we give this 3, it turns to 10. He just double trades. They both go to 1. I guess the Operative is the best pick, depending on what it gives us. Shadow Step or Vanish. Vanish could be pretty annoying for him. I think we just lose here. There's no point to continue. He has 15 damage on board. Alright, so that'll be our 1 loss. No big deal. We probably should have mulliganed better against the Rogue, knowing that it's maybe Quest Rogue and the matchup is really bad as is. So we kind of can't be greedy with our draws. So putting back the Talon Priest and the Power Word Shield was probably the better play. Or maybe we keep the Talon Priest and we put back both the Power Word Shield and the the Northshire or the Netherspite, and we look for like a Northshire. That's not as bad as a. That's not bad at all either. DPS longbow. Okay, so now we have Cleric, Historian, and Cabal Talon Priest with a dragon in hand. We keep everything. I know the dragon's huge, but I'm not greedy about my dragons. We got our early game set, so. And this is going to discover another dragon, and that dragon could be a, you know, mid-game dragon. So if he's Taunt Warrior, again, filling up a decent size mid-game board, very important. I didn't really catch to see if he held anything or not. So normally, against Warrior, if he's Pirate, then I would throw down the Cleric, but if it's not, we kind of hold. So I think I'm going to hold. I don't know what kind of pirate or what kind of warrior yet. And I didn't pay attention to his opening hand. Let's say he kept 2 cards. One of them's probably War Axe. He never played Northshire into War Axe. But let's say he threw away everything. We play the Cleric. Okay, so he's pirates. So playing the Cleric there would have been good because then we could have attacked the patches. Now we take a little bit additional damage. We also could coin out the Talon Priest, which is not a bad play because then we can play the Historian and the Cleric in the same turn. So I think that's going to be the play. Or we could... I know this is a weird play, but against pirates, we have to be as quick as possible. So we're going to hope... Let's see if he plays War Axe from the left side. Because if we would have played Cleric first anyway, and he plays War Axe from any of these 4 cards that he didn't recently just draw, then it was a bad play to begin with. So playing the Cleric there would have been bad regardless. So we'll see what happens here. He's going to go face. If his patches goes face, then we know he's not going to War Axe, but he can still Fiery and upgrade, which is really bad. So there's the Fiery War Axe coming down. So playing the Northshire was not a good play there. So now we're just going to hope he doesn't swing into the 3-4. We want him to go face here so we can Power Ward Shield and do big things. Oh, my, he even has the upgrade so he can keep the patches alive. This is just awful. If he goes face, we have a chance. If he kills the creature, it's brutal. All right. Oh boy. Oh boy. Potion of Madnessing doesn't really do anything. We kill patches, we bring this down to a 2-2. That doesn't necessarily do us a whole lot.
Once upon a time.
I guess we go with Operative. It's just a card. We already have a bigger minion in our hand. Now the question is, do we play the Cleric? Force him to trade? I think playing the Cleric is good, because if we shield, it really doesn't do a whole lot. We do get the draw in. But I think 2 minions is better than 1.
Is someone injured?
We're going to hope he doesn't have the South Sea Captain at this point. Because then if he buffs the pirates, then they can trade into the Cleric and stuff, and it doesn't matter. I'm thinking maybe the shield was better. Because now we have nothing to shield on turn 4. We basically have to go Twilight Drake. And then we have the Operative on 5. So there's not going to be a lot of time for the Power Word Shield. But meanwhile, let's say we don't have to play this 4-drop, and we can, like... Holy shit, this weapon. We don't want any weapon destruction. So there actually is a room in this deck if you want to cut, let's say, like a Glimmer Root and put in, like, a Gluttonous Ooze. Yeah, that's actually not a terrible idea at all. But this is not too bad. So we can go Potion of Madness this. Trade here. Potion of Madness this. Trade here. And then we can actually... It's either trade here and heal, or we can buff this and draw, and trade and keep a minion on board. That's good. That was a super sick draw. So we're gonna hope he plays a 3-minion, a minion with 3 or less. The problem is in this matchup we have no weapon destruction, so we have to depend on being able to live long enough to play taunts. And the problem is that most of the time we don't have the time. Okay, so our best bet is if he swings weapon and kills this, this goes to 3, and then we can paint it. The problem is if he makes like a double trade here, if he trades the 2-1 into the 1-2, he's a genius. Because then this would go to 4, and then he would just win the game on the spot. The problem is he didn't do that. He valued 2 damage versus keeping his Berserker alive, and you never make that trade. So this isn't a good Pirate Warrior in regards to playing around particular cards that he should. So we always shield, we always kill that when we heal face. And granted that we did draw the death, so we could have killed it 2 turns, but that's too long. So we're just going to hope that he doesn't have any more upgrade abilities. And our best turn 6 play is going to be drawing into either the Bookworm or the Shadow Priest. That's a very interesting Leroy. So if he trades with one of these 1/1s with his weapon, I'm going to have to say he's one of the worst Pirate Warriors we've come across this season. Because, okay, this makes sense. Alrighty, so we need to heal face. And when we heal face, the only other card to play is either the Drake or the Talon Priest. If we play the Talon Priest, we actually can keep a card on board. No, we can't. I lied. We just need 2 turns. We get to play Taunt. We can survive. The problem is if he drops the Arcanite here, we're in big trouble. If he drops Arcanite, he wins. He Leroyed last turn, which tells me his hand either is like Heroic Strike, Cheap Minion, Mortal Strike, Heroic Strike, Weapon, or Arcanite Reaper, Heroic Strike. Right now, he should always go face. Alright, so he's 1 off lethal. Oh, man. So we have to draw... I don't know. We were one turn off playing the Primordial Drake, which feels really bad. I don't think there's a way out of this one. Yeah, there's no way out of this one. We can go ahead and try to operative out a taunt, but that's not going to be enough. Yeah. This was a pretty bad Pirate Warrior we just lost to. But this deck really isn't the greatest against Pirate Warrior. And it's not really that popular of a deck right now, to be honest, either. So in this deck guide, we get 2 losses. We get to showcase this deck's real weakness. Quest Rogue and Pirate Warrior. So anything but those classes, I feel fully comfortable with this deck. But those 2 classes is really rough. It really is really rough. Like, Dragon Priest used to have, you know, the Agent early on, the 2 mana 2/4 taunt. They had Twilight Guardian, a 4 mana 3/4 taunt, and it was pretty okay. Now with the lacking of those cards, it really hurts us. It really hurts us in the early game. So if this is another Pirate Warrior, it's gonna feel even worse, and I may actually end up cutting this here, and we'll just play against any other class but Pirate Warrior and Quest Rogue, so I can show you another win. Because I'd hate to see the deck guide go down the drain, because we just played against 3 super aggressive classes. Alright, so nothing to play turn 1, no surprise there. The Cabal Shadow Priest is good, just not now. And these normally are pretty good against the Pirate Warrior, just to have shit on the board. But if he's Taunt Warrior, we stand a pretty good chance. Alright, it's Pirates again. So we need to draw a dragon 100% here. Shadow Visions is not a dragon. Unfortunately, we've been dragon locked 2 games now. I guess we can Shadow Visions and hope to get a Potion of Madness to try to cut down on this early game damage. Coin upgrade. Oh man, this is very similar to what happened last game. So we definitely Potion of Madness both these cards down. Now the question is, yeah, we can't even afford to play this 1/3, so we just heal. So next turn is Glimmer Root. Give it health. Live long enough to play Lyra. If he doesn't kill Lyra, maybe we draw into another Shadow Visions to get a Potion of Madness the following turn. Come on, man. Don't do me dirty like this. 4 cards in hand. Another deck hand. Hero power, which tells me he would have an elite next turn, which means we need to develop a decent board, because we're taking at least 4 more. We're taking at least 4 more. Twilight Drake. So Twilight Drake would be, nah, we always Glimmer Root and then give it with the shield. The elite is a good pick, because we actually can play that against his elite next turn. And the reason I gave it health now instead of giving our elite health next turn is because he has to trade both of these into this 3/5. Because he's going to want to go face with the elite. Oh, he's gonna go with the upgrade, which is even worse for us. Is he just gonna go face? Wow. This hurts me bad because we need to heal, but at the same time we can't kill this cultist. I think this might be just another loss. Not much I can do here, fam. Oh man, we just have to hope he whiffs really hard. Like he plays like that. I don't know. Every minion in his deck isn't gonna have less than 2 attack now, so Shadow or Cabal Shadow Priest isn't that helpful. We don't have any taunts. We're not even close to being able to play the Primordial Drake. Imagine if that Curious Glimmer Root was a there's the elite that we knew he had. I wonder if he goes face or does he trade? I think in this situation it would be it'd be safe to actually kill this because we have no way to kill this elite the following turn. But now we actually have a way to kill it. So if we heal, trade there, we keep the 1/1 on board. Or we could trade and then take the 1/1, but then we don't heal. And that's very scary. So it's basically how much do we value this 1/1? I mean, he already played 1 cultist. This goes to 2. That kills us. Heroic Strike kills us. So much kills us. South Sea Deckhand, but he already played 2 of those. So we know this always goes here. Is there ever a world in which we Talon Priest this so it lives, heal, and then we don't kill that? I don't think it really matters. Sinanya. Either way, it's either we heal or we kill this 1/1.
What is in
I can't seem to value one over the other here. So I think I'm going to go with this play. We're at technically 1 HP. But we're just going to get Mortal Strike to Heroic Strike. So. Or charged. Yeah, Heroic Strike. Okay. I'm very surprised. A lot of Pirate Warrior in a row here. I hadn't played against a lot of Pirate Warrior, or normally you tech in the Gluttonous Ooze and stuff like that. But we've been seeing a lot of Mage, you know? A lot of Mage, a lot of Shaman, and a lot of Paladin. So I didn't really feel a reason to throw in the Gluttonous Ooze in our Priest deck. But it feels like it's, if you're watching this deck guide, maybe it is the place to be right now. Anything but a Crust Rogue and a Pirate. There we go. Mage. Finally something other than those two. Mage isn't even that great to see, but, you know, we take what we get. So the Elise goes back. I like the Glimmer Root. The Cleric's not bad, but the problem is it doesn't really help us too much in the early game, but it's still a turn 1 drop, so. So we kept 1 card on the left there. We'll see if it's a Mana Worm. Not a Mana Worm. So if he Frostbolts the Cleric, we're really not that sad about it. So I really don't mind Cleric on turn 1. Do we ever coin Glimmer Root? I don't think so. Now, we definitely coin Talon Priest. This is a fantastic start. I mean, it doesn't make our Twilight Drake that great, but still pretty good. Very annoying. Very annoying. See, why couldn't we have a start like this when we played against the pirate decks, the rogue decks? Then we would have stood a chance, maybe. There's a secret coming down. We'll see what secret that is when I play the Curious Glimmer Root, Curious Glimmer Root. So, where do we play this? Do we play it right here? Probably. What do we know that's in his deck? Flame Strike. Could it be Vaporized, so we'll attack with the 3/4 first. Not? Okay. So that's probably a nice block. This is most likely also Control Mage. So, if you are wondering, you know, Rob, what I need to put in some cards, what do I put in? Like, I want to add Eater of Secrets and Gluttonous Ooze. I would recommend taking out either the Cabal Shadow Priest or the Bookworm, and then taking out one, or the Bookworm or Cabal Shadow Priest, and then the Elise, and adding in a Eater of Secrets and a Gluttonous Ooze, if you're wondering for those. So now do we play a Glimmer Root or do we play the Drake? We could actually go Glimmerroot Shield, and then we can play the operative, because right now if we play the Drake, then we'd have nothing for the operative. And that guy living is pretty important. We also can make trades and heal. Also is not that bad. So let's give him with that trade. Give him with that heal. See what we get. Another operative. I'll buff this guy again. Counter spells. It's pretty good. I don't mind him counterspelling that whatsoever. So we didn't know we were going to draw operative, and that's why I didn't want to play Drake. Because I value operative over the Drake any day. All day. Cannot outvalue the priest, man. Also against Medivh, Gluttonous Ooze is really good. We went over that in our top tech cards. So, I'm going to throw this on the left-hand side. Play around Meteor as much as we can. I think we always go Pyroblast. That just feels like a really nice card. Trade there. Go face. Give him an easy trade on the Talon Priest, but I don't want him to be able to easily kill the operative. I want him to have to fireball that. And then we just drop another, probably a Drake. Another operative is pretty good too. Force another fireball out. So he's going to glyph. He's going to look for either value or a damage spell. Glyph into glyph. Let the inception begin. There's the fireball coming down. The trade being made. We foresaw this. So we're going to drop the operative. Let's pick up another great spell. Ice block is really good, or another pyroblast. I'm going to go with the ice block. And then we're going to give this guy a little bit more health. Go face. We're not going to play the ice block until we need it. Because he could be running Eater of Secrets, and he doesn't know if we get ice block or not. So we're just going to hold on to this. Even if we can play it beforehand, we still don't play it. Bum, 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 ba-dum, bum. So we're going to play the... we're going to play the Glimmerroot first. And we're going to put this here. Let's see what we take. What do we know he's playing? 100% the Archaeologist. And then we're going to drop this guy on this side. Well, actually, we should drop him on... Well, yeah, he should be on the outside. Swing with our lowest. The reason I didn't want to put him there is because if he meteors this guy dies, and this takes damage. While if he meteors this, only this takes damage. He meteors this, only this takes damage. Always got to think about meteor, guys. Meteor is a very real thing. So big creatures on the lefts. Or the left or the right. Far right, far left. There's Medivh. This could be another counter spell. We're going to hope it's not. Okay. Let's drop. If we put this guy here, we're going to put him on the outside. This is really hard placement. I'm not really sure. Not really sure. Because if you put him here, that takes damage. Yeah. We're going to put him in the middle. We can maybe pop block next turn. That's fantastic. I'd even pop block if we Pyroblast face. I think that's almost worth it as well. So this is where if we ran like Eater of Secrets instead of the Bookworm, we would win next turn. We would Eater of Secrets, attack face. But he's probably going to freeze the board, but I think we're at least going to have enough damage for 3. But he knows he can live an additional turn. So this is what I was talking about in our tech video. So there's the Flame Strike. He's not going to kill everything here. And he knows we can't really kill this. So he has time. 4 attack minion, very annoying. Okay, so we...
You wish to live forever.
Let's buff our operative up. Let's heal him. We know the cleric is gonna die.
Right away.
I'm gonna put this here because I don't want him meet. Actually, we could put it here. Stop the meteor from hitting both our big minions. Or we could put it here and stop it from hitting the 3/4. Yeah, let's put it here. Operative for sure. This goes face. Pops the block. I'm gonna put the Archaeologist here. Spacing out our bigger minions. Big minion in the middle, big minion on the right, big minion on the left. Little minions everywhere else. So we know he has the ice block. There's the Firelands portal coming down, and the ice block is gonna hit. It's actually not a bad card for him to get. Oh, he doesn't have another ice block? Unless he got it from Primordial Glyph. Cool. So we pulled off a win the second we didn't play an aggro class. Fantastic. So I know this deck guide was a little bit different than what we normally do. Normally we play 3 or play 4 or only lose 1. Unfortunately, we lost 3, but it was 3 against basically the same deck. You know, Quest Rogue and Pirate Warrior are this deck's weaknesses. Like I've mentioned, there's quite a few tech cards you can make, and I recommend taking out the Elise if you're facing a lot of aggro. I know you can Shadow Visions into Elise to get huge amounts of value, but at the same time, if you're playing against aggro decks all day, you're never going to need to do that because you're dead before you even play Elise. So I'm well aware that I had mentioned that, and I'm going to receive comments like, Rob, why would you recommend taking out Elise? Shadow Visions is so OP. But like I mentioned, if you're playing aggro decks, that never happens. Like you never need that. This deck performs well against mid-range, performs well against control. If you want to keep those matchups, you keep the deck the way it is. If you want to tech in against aggro, you take away some of your late games. Where you give, you got to take, and I understand. You got to understand that part. If you want to do better in your early game, you got to give up some of your late game, and that's just the way it is. So hopefully you've enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next episode. As always, I'm Robert Warshak, and happy whatever the hell day it is.